She has a cool gun and is good at fighting and wants to be a hero, and that's about it.
Your book, does it have a name?
It's about a man with two souls.
Yeah, that's a cool foreshadowing. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I probably think that husband being reincarnated into different bodies was maybe planned. Maybe it was an idea.
I love books.
I love books.
It's cute. Shut
Our
up.
main character, ladies and gentlemen, coming up with compelling characters who make interesting decisions is basically the core job of stories. RWBY is effectively a blank slate, so she's just not interesting.
She's a blank slate to the point that she acts like a fangirl. She drinks milk. She likes fighting. She's thinks she's inferior to being a team leader. She has a relationship with Yang, and yeah, she has a relationship with Crow, and she mentor-student relationship, and yeah, that's totally just makes her a blank slate, guys.
Except when she's physically doing something interesting with her cool gun, like bouncing in the air using...
Yeah, this guy is fucking similar to every freaking RWBY fan. He just suffers. Unless there's a fight scene on the screen, he just suffers 24/7.
blowback to slow her
When we're watching RWBY, that's
interesting.
that's the thing.
For a couple
He just freaking can't stand
of
any part of
seconds.
RWBY unless it's a fight
RWBY's
scene.
so poorly characterized that the writers are still making...
To the point, makes me think that if that were truly true, why did they freaking make it to 2-hour video? Because if you truly didn't care or appreciate RWBY, you wouldn't put this much effort. Because this video success is very luck-based. In fact, YouTube is a fucking luck-based system. So, buddy, I think you're just in denial.
up their minds more.
You're just your desires are taking making it seem like RWBY is bad, but the fact of the matter is you do like RWBY. You love it a lot. You even watched season fucking 6. Even though this video is about one part 1 and 2, you just think you hate it because you know your desires are driving you crazy.
Seasons in.
You just want it to be better and better, and that desire to see better version of RWBY is making you mad.
The point that even what
Stop desiring
little we do know about
and
her
appreciate, live in the moment,
gets
please.
written to try to make her more interesting than she first appeared. For example, when RWBY falls into the plot, she doesn't have a weapon with her. But luckily, as we've seen, she's an expert at hand-to-hand combat and can easily dispatch the...
Oh, that hit us so bad.
Oh.
I mean, it was so hard for me to watch.
Wait.
Between
these
like
two
RWBY
scenes,
so I love RWBY. Yeah, I'm going to say she's 15. I don't care.
writers
Shut up.
decided it would be more interesting for RWBY to be useless without her
Yeah, it is hard to see
weapon.
her getting
Wow,
punched.
you are much more manageable without that oversized gardening tool of yours.
So now we're in a situation
Again, a good line there. That was probably written by Miles. But you're not going to say anything positive, are we?
where characters' basic abilities are being rewritten on a whim to try to make the story more
To be fair, like,
interesting. Get the event in this, the very first scene in the show. So what little
I mean, dude, it could be that RWBY actually freaking used her gun. You don't know that.
character
You only they never show RWBY freaking grabbing this dude and throwing her off the window. So maybe she used the gun.
is happening in this
Buddy, maybe you just lack
scene
imagination.
gets rewritten later. This means even in potentially cool scenes taken directly from one of the best anime ever, the scene doesn't work.
Yeah, that's such an important thing. Like, you were criticizing the freaking copyright law, and here you are, freaking copyright infringing RWBY. Even though Cowboy Bebop didn't invent robbing.
Because the character doesn't have an opportunity to act, to make choices. So yeah, I'm going to say this scene doesn't work very well because it doesn't have any decently thought out characters in it.
And the worst part about
therefore
this
has
is that
nothing
if
to
people
tell
watch
or
this
show us
video,
about them,
there are going to be so many people arguing for this
Except for the
person's arguments,
aesthetic design of Ruby and her weapon,
and I have to like talk
and the
and explain
coolness
myself
of the fight
again.
animations. So the writers evidently had seen the opening of Cowboy Bebop the movie, enjoyed it because it's great,
Nice.
and decided to start their show in a similar way, but didn't know why Cowboy Bebop's opening actually worked so well, so they just borrowed the surface components, store robbery, acting distracted, headphones, and cool fight, without using them in a way that does anything specific for the audience. Now, you could say, well, how do you know this is the scene that inspired them? What if the scenes just happen to be similar? Well, if that's the case, the scene still doesn't work, and the comparison still shows how much better the scene could have been if it would demonstrate the creators had seen Cowboy Bebop, and there's just no easy way.
If I'd recommend a show to someone looking to get into anime, I'd go with my personal favorite, Cowboy Bebop, because I think it's got enough like Western stuff going on. Just say Spike. I'm just gonna say Spike Spiegel from Cowboy Bebop because he's just like water and he's so cool.
My favorite is Cowboy Bebop.
My favorite anime is.
Oh yeah, you do have proof. Congrats.
My favorite anime is
Oh yeah, yes. Let's just make it seem like Luna is just forever will be inferior to the writers of Cowboy Bebop because he's a fan of their work. Yeah.
And although it's not
I bet Monty is probably forever will be inferior to the martial arts movies that he watches. Yeah. When you're a fan of something, you're infinitely worse than that thing.
technically an anime.
The thing you're a
I
fan
also
of.
love Avatar: The Last Airbender. Avatar, Okay, so I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say maybe Miles was inspired by his favorite anime while trying to write an anime.
You know what? I keep falling back to Bebop, but
Like, I'm not gonna lie, I am being punished severely during certain arguments because this guy did do a lot of research. I
can just run away
kind
from
of
the past. Sometimes you
didn't,
just gotta
but you know,
deal with the problems.
doesn't stop me from
And if you don't, they will catch up with you.
Keep
pointing
in
out
mind,
the
I'm
stupidity
not
of
saying this
certain
is plagiarism.
arguments.
Creative theft is a different thing entirely. I'm saying this is derivative and doesn't even replicate.
Oh yeah. And Cowboy Bebop is so original, man. Maybe Cowboy Bebop should, be copyright infringed by the first guy who invented the store or the first guy who invented robbing.
Replicate the thing it's trying to. It's certainly not wrong to draw inspiration from other works you like, or even pay deliberate homage to things you enjoy or which seem fitting to reference in a scene.
Oh my
I mean,
god.
Cowboy Bebop does this
Funny.
all the time. And the convenience store scene
Stop.
actually references Pulp Fiction,
What is up
when one
with
of the
this
robbers they
bad
don't know about
takes?
comes out of the bathroom and surprises them, which happens literally 3 times in Pulp Fiction.
And yeah, it didn't happen in RWBY, so.
Take a shit.
Pretty sure this is a reference, and I should know, I had a lot of very long...
Oh yeah, and also, Cowboy Bebop is similar to Pulp Fiction. So why aren't you criticizing Cowboy Bebop for being not original, huh?
arguments on now deleted fan forums about whether this counts. And let me just say to Mazin
Yeah,
Kaiser...
I think you're a big fan of fucking copyright laws, dude. You complain about copyright laws and then say stupid shit about how RWBY copied other stuff.
If
Cool.
you're still out there, I have a
Nice double standard, dude.
YouTube channel now, so fuck you, you little Philistine. I win. What I'm getting at here is that firstly, I've always been cool, but also that there's nothing wrong with wearing your inspiration on your sleeve. What is wrong is doing it without understanding what made the original thing work.
Yeah. Just copy Cowboy Bebop. Like, make it so that RWBY attacks the freaking store instead of being in the store, and make RWBY use a gun and then say like stupid lines like Spike Spiegel. Yeah, that'll be super original because if you can't beat him, join him, I guess. Make RWBY say, "I'm just your familiar bounty hunter, ma'am. Da-dum. It's Ruby Rose." Yeah, just copy
Because
Cowboy
now
Bebop.
it's not a
That's the lesson here.
cool
Just
introduction
don't make anything original. Don't make anything different from Cowboy Bebop. Cowboy Bebop is amazing, and if you do something like differently,
to a character,
your
story,
show
and
is
setting
trash.
inspired
That's
by
the
another
lesson
good
here.
thing. It's a weird, clunky, and unnecessary scene whose best feature is it reminds people of Cowboy Bebop. But RWBY doesn't just remind me of Bebop. It reminds me of a lot of other anime.
Oh yeah, because it's almost seems like it's hard to make something original, or it almost seems like ideas don't born from nothingness. We all live in the same world, so naturally, there are going to be similar stories, and we are, human beings, learning and copying, and mixing things up is in our DNA.
And this is a
It's almost like God, the universe, the existence works like that. It's almost like people learn from the past, and nothing is truly original. Whoa, you're blowing my
show's design.
mind, dude.
And the next day, he was like, hey, we should make an anime.
So, as prep before writing the show, Monty gave the writers some homework. Anime homework.
I went to Kerry and I gave him anime homework. If you want to be honest, you should do some anime homework. So I just started giving him shows to watch.
I'm kind of secretive about it, but I've seen a lot of anime in my time, and I know a bit about it. I'd like to think no one's noticed this about me, but we've somehow finally reached a place where proper criticism of a piece of media relies on using that knowledge, a concept which terrifies me. But with the benefit of your trust, we'll come out the other side having learned more and improved our analytical technique. So, in the name of
Yeah, the
science...
analytical technique of accusing someone without a proof and just trashing on something because it's not as exactly the same as the thing you like.
Let's punch
Whoa.
this plate of spaghetti in order to reverse engineer
Yeah,
it.
like this guy is probably the guy who thinks that the morning is amazing, like daytime is amazing, and nighttime should like disappear. Like these types of people criticize something for being different, but also criticize something for being too similar.
Duh.
So there's really no escape or any counter arguments that any fans could make, because no matter what you do, they're going to bitch about it.
RWBY is inspired by anime, not just in terms of visuals, but more directly by the tropes and idioms and basic story elements of shows the creators liked, or at least were told to watch. The problem is it draws far too much on ideas and concepts that feel like anime without really understanding what made the things it's borrowing actually work in the shows they were in. RWBY is a really strange bunch of shows, and if you're willing to check, you can even find out which ones. In a Reddit thread, Miles Luna said what some of the shows on his anime homework list were. Among them, Gurren Lagann, Soul Eater, Naruto, Bleach, and Black Rock Shooter.
I mean, oh fuck, man. I mean, I didn't watch Beck, so yeah, man. I definitely should watch. I didn't finish Soul Eater, but yeah, I did watch. I should finish Fully Cooley. Monty will be so disappointed in me. But hey, I did watch FMA a bit. I didn't finish it. I did finish Brotherhood. So yeah. Hell yeah.
Some of these shows have direct parallels with RWBY's story. Naruto,
But like, no, because one of the thing I will tell you that I know all this show. I don't know what STY is, but I know Gurren Lagann, Soul Eater, Fully Cooley, Cowboy Bebop, back at FMA. But one thing about RWBY is that it's not similar to any of this show. Or at the very least, it's very different. Like, they mix so many different shit together. Like, I actually do think, like, Volume 1 to 3 is more similar to Harry Potter than anything. And it's only because of the fact that they're in the school. Only because of that. The other aspect of the fact that RWBY is so much similar to other like anime and have scythes and like only Soul Eater has scythe. The only like similar that Soul Eater has with RWBY is that the both main characters are females and have a scythe. But and there is a school. So yeah, oh, okay, fuck that. I am seeing the similarities now. Yeah, it is very similar to Soul Eater, huh? Gurren Lagann. Yeah, I don't see any similarity that Gurren Lagann has. Maybe the mentality that the characters have, maybe, but other than that, I don't see that many similarities. There aren't that many drill using characters in RWBY. Cowboy Bebop against the start is similar. Fully Cooley, Yeah, I don't see much similarities with Cool. I watched like at least halfway, so I do know what it's about. Maybe certain character personalities. I don't freaking know. FMA Brotherhood. I mean, I guess the magic system is similar. The seven deadly sins is a thing. I guess, yeah. And I guess like maybe Ruby's outfit is similar to Edward's outfit, but body, it's not that similar. Like the only like super similar thing might be Soul Eater, and it's only because of the scythe and the fact that they go to school. Other than that, the shows are very different. Especially, oh wait, the school gets attacked. Fucked. So yeah, they are quite similar. Yeah, from this show, I actually do think Soul Eater is the most similar to Ruby, and I'm actually kind of surprised he didn't mention Soul Eater a lot often. But like, so what? There's still so many differences. Like the Soul Eater get political towards the end. The Soul Eater have a depression arc. The Soul Eater have freaking made by Americans and have American culture in it. The Soul Eater have Jeff Williams making the music. The Soul Eater have you get the idea.
Bleach and Soul Eater especially have some direct contrasts. All these shows have large casts of characters who, all for their specific story reasons, have their own unique powers. This is really traditional for shonen shows. Everyone kind of has their own deal, and in Bleach...
But like, it's so hard to find originality because every like idea in the sun is made, and ideas don't come from out of nowhere. They always come from the past. They always come from your brain and the past experiences that you have. You won't be able to talk German if you never learned German.
Almost every main character has a unique
the copyright law is stupid.
Sword
the copyright law is the enemy of the world.
And the main character in Soul
and people like asses like him who like complain about the copyright law and then like accuse other people of copying. And the people who have double standards.
It's not that hard to tell what ideas RWBY is borrowing from these shows, is it? But again, the core elements being borrowed are the really basic Wikipedia-level synopsis ideas. The sort of stuff people who don't...
I do think that Mercury is similar to Jin and Horang. Adam is probably similar to someone else. I mean, who cares, dude? Who cares about this? You're going to get an idea about somewhere else, somewhere from some place.
And they happen to be set against a fun, fantastical background with cool action. Boruto's dad and his army of frenemies live rich inner lives and form interesting connections with each other and the audience as they grow.
Are you going to say Naruto is better than RWBY?
Oh, and change.
Dare it. Say it. I dare you.
In Soul Eater, the cool weapons are alive, and lots of focus is put on how they relate to and work with their users. And this also happens in Bleach, but you know...
like all of those shows are just so much better than RWBY. It's not like Bleach and Naruto have freaking infinite amount of fillers, or the fact that Soul Eater is on a hiatus.
In a way where it seems really...
Or has much more annoying characters than RWBY.
Awesome, and you choose to watch it over all the other shonen at the time, and then it crushes your hopes and dreams. And it seems like, in the early RWBY-Weiss relationship, this is what they were going for. The way they bicker in the early trial, and Weiss is angry about not being the leader later. This is honestly, genuinely, the beginning of an interesting relationship. But instead of making this an aspect of the show, they fix it and make someone else's life the
Oh no, our characters are just too smart and level-headed and are good people. They like actually get over their problems instead of extending it for the entirety of the story.
Focus of the show for half of it, and then someone else turns up to do all the fighting.
Yeah, like watching other characters like fight is just so bad.
At best.
Do you want to watch like RWBY fight with a scythe all the time, or do you want to see Sun's cool nunchuck fights? Man, I really hope Sun has a fight in Volume 9. I miss those nunchucks, not gonna lie.
The main character, to quote Miles Luna again, if you want to get a feel of what the show will be like, watch Avatar: The Last Airbender. Oh, this explains a lot of things. So if
you're just going to like... yeah, I mean, this is the freaking thing about this video. it's so manipulative. Now, what am I supposed to say? Am I supposed to like shit on Avatar in order to defend RWBY, Info, Miles, Luna, and Monty like it? Both shows are good. Why do we have to like shit on something to make something else look better?
You go watch
Why can't we like love
Avatar, you start
something like equally?
realize where a
Like
lot
why can't we spread our loves without
of the show
hating and shitting on something
came
else?
from. For example, Avatar is set in a world with 4 nations in it.
Long ago, the 4 nations lived together in harmony.
RWBY has 4 kingdoms, so you see it's different.
Oh, I see, but like they weren't warring against one another, and the story isn't about one nation going against one another. So yeah, there's similarities, but also Avatar doesn't have a school, so already a big difference there. And Avatar is also their superpower is also much more related to their nature, and whereas semblances are more similar to stands.
The 4 kingdoms.
So yeah.
Called kingdoms because, well, they can't call them nations, can they? In Avatar, in times of stress, the Avatar enters a state where his eyes glow.
Yeah. Nations going to war is such an original idea. Avatar invented war, guys. Avatar invented countries.
Manifests amazing powers. You'll never guess that 3 seasons into the story, with zero setup that this is a thing, RWBY's eyes suddenly glow and she's revealed to have the amazing power to instantly turn even the most powerful Grimm to stone. You learn she has this.
Again, one thing to note, RWBY didn't probably saw like a death, like had such an emotional, like seeing someone die in front of her in her life, probably. And even if she did, she probably wasn't like mature enough to like open this ability up.
Power the instant it happens,
So,
and
like,
you only learn what this power is
what's the
in
problem?
retrospect, because there was no room in the story to set this up, was there? Another cool thing about Avatar is that the Avatar.
I mean, yeah, there
really-
was, but unfortunately, like, I mean, well, I don't know why they didn't foreshadow it more. I actually do think that it's kind of a thing that's hard to foreshadow, even though you wanted to, because it's a sudden power up. Like, so how do you foreshadow something that's supposed to be a surprise and supposed to be hidden? You don't.
It's into a new
Foreshadowing exists only because if it's logical. In fact, don't think in writing terms. Think in terms of logic, like life logic. Okay, there's like when you're writing a story, don't think in terms of characters, plot, freaking foreshadowing. Think in terms of life logic. And whether it will be enjoyable for people.
form whenever he dies. Completely coincidentally, there's a character in RWBY whose spirit goes on to inhabit a new form whenever he dies. Amazing. You see, it's actually a clever twist, because no one would have expected them to be that obvious. So when they really did just do Avatar again, it's a genuine surprise. Oh, another massively important.
Yeah, because reincarnation, like, have you have you paid any attention to Buddhism or Tao or whatever religion that existed in India? Like, if you freaking live in India or have an internet connection, reincarnation is not a very original idea, dude.
Plot element. One of the antagonists is a revolutionary political movement reacting to oppression, led by a man in a mask with horrendous scars underneath. Was I
Yeah, that's kind of true, but like...
talking about RWBY there? No, I was talking about Avatar Legend of Korra, but
yeah.
yes, that also happens
But so what?
in RWBY. Oh, actually, you see, the scar is different because it's over one of his eyes. That's slightly different from Avatar, so it's not the same thing, you see. No, what's this picture of Zuko doing here? Then, in later seasons...
So like, that's the freaking thing about the thing. You were complaining about how RWBY is so like different from other shows. Like, you were complaining about RWBY having like dance scenes and a John Boldy arc. Like, did the Avatar have a Boldy arc? No, but you are going to complain about it anyways.
decide to
because
take the
complaining
story in a
is all
very
what you
different
do.
direction.
This
you know,
video
to make it a bit more unique. So
it's
now
just
the characters have
first
to
half is just bait, is emotional manipulation,
travel the
and the other
world and
half
visit
is
lots of different
complaints.
towns and villages
Complaints
and cultures
that aren't justified.
on their way, which
Why
is
am I
completely
even
unlike
making this
Avatar,
video?
because when it happens in Avatar, it's good. Remember when I was positive about the potential of RWBY's story and setting? Well, it feels like I'm really just complimenting the material it borrowed.
Complaining about stupid artist ass.
So many of RWBY's choices
Because
seem
artists are good
specifically
people. They could be like
that way.
like whoever into the artist should. I'm going to say it. You could be out there freaking attacking Ukraine and killing a bunch of civilians, or you could be, I don't know, freaking making a money scam, doing NFT scams on the internet. But no, you're making art. You are a good people. You're a good person who is doing what you enjoy.
Play an avatar, even though it's completely
I can't make
unnecessary
fun
to
of
borrow those
artists
parts.
when there's so many people who are acting like Adam, who are acting like Salem.
You play with magic water, I get soaked.
So yeah, I don't want to like make content that shits on other people.
It's not magic.
If you want to like see, and because clearly my video isn't ever going to like be successful as this. So maybe if you want to like enjoy being RWBY shitted on, maybe props to you. But maybe think for yourself and realize that hey, maybe like watching an entire video of someone shitting on something with really bad logic is a waste of time. Maybe you're just like satisfying your hatred and ego. Like watching this dude shit on something else isn't going to make you a writing genius.
Oh my god.
That's the freaking thing about writing. I think I actually did like, I love storytelling to the point that I did like read Mickey's the story, and I also read a bunch of other writing related content and video. And looking back now, those videos and books feel like such a waste of time because stories are just about life. It's better off that you just read actual stories and actual movies.
Is
and
that
TV
where the
shows,
character
instead of like reading these types of essays, because it's not worth it. Because these videos aren't like giving you enough depth into life. Like John Bolyark has more depth and interesting stuff and meaningful messages than this entire video.
not being magic came from? Why would you even think to do that? I always thought each season of RWBY being called a volume was a bit weird.
Like RWBY Volume 7 and its political intrigue is miles better than anything this guy is doing. This guy has all the production values. He has a great. He's using all RWBY's video. He's commentating on it. He put a shit ton of effort. But
and guess
that
what?
doesn't
It turns out
make it any difference that the core, the heart of this video is ass. No matter how much I appreciate his efforts, the heart of this video
when they're
is
called
dumb.
books. Even
It's egotistical.
the intro voiceover sometimes sounds like they right-click thesaurused some aspects of Avatar's intro.
My grandmother used to tell me stories about the old days.
Legends. Stories scattered through time.
It's like the show's playing a game of telephone with Avatar. Those words in that order sounded good.
No, it's completely different. You're just like complaining about. Again, Katara is like the female lead, whereas the story is being narrated by Salem, and even the visuals are different. So,
Let's use
Buddy, also this narration is about dust, not about the countries. It only briefly mentions the countries.
words
So,
that are a bit similar
Buddy,
in a different
Buddy,
way, and also make it all about dust. The thing that made
yeah.
Avatar's introduction work
So, like, why are you mad, bro?
is it set up a lot of stuff at once. For
You're complaining about it being similar, but at the same different.
example, how this settings version of magic worked? The thing you didn't mention at all? Or the fact there were 4 big nations? You know, the thing you didn't mention at all, except for when 4 castle-looking things turn up for 3 seconds before disappearing. Jean is a pretty direct analog for soccer, to the point where the creators just say that's what he's based on.
Oh no, I'm saying like we when you first did reads, and I was like, we needed like a soccer character.
Yeah, but like, So what? If anything, you're actually like abusing the fact that Miles and Luna are such like honest people that they're willing to share their inspirations and thought process. Because there are people who are exactly afraid of these types of criticism and videos, that they're so afraid that they're afraid to like talk about their inspiration. Whereas these people are free and honest people who are willing to share that, hey, we aren't these geniuses who created these ideas out of nothing. We have inspirations, and we are just like you who watched Avatar the Airbender. We are like not better than you. We aren't just people who like have superpowers and make original shit. No, we are just people. And you are abusing that fact and making fun of them for the fact that they are honest about their creation. Nothing is original. Avatar is based on a lot of stuff. Like the writers of Avatar also have inspirations too, and they also probably would make a video like similar to the ones Miles and the crew did.
Had this subplot of Jean
and they probably did too.
Not accepting Pyrrha's offer to help train him to be a better fighter. But his explanation for why was always really strange. He wants to get better without help, or he's not really a hero, or something.
If I can't do this on
yeah, that's his flaw. And, you know, that's a lot of people kind of do.
Good am I?
It's kind of like what you're trying to do, you know, dude. Maybe you didn't learn anything from the John Bully arc. Maybe, you know, if you paid attention to the Bully arc, maybe you should realize that trying to push people harder is just going to make them suicidal or just feel them look like shit. Maybe, you know, like shitting on Luna isn't going to help anyone. Maybe shitting on Luna, maybe you're fucking Carton and maybe Miles is Luna. Have you like looked at it from that angle? Like maybe like you shitting and bullying Miles Luna isn't going to help anyone.
But he never tried.
But Miles is probably going to be a nice guy and going to like help you anyways.
And never
have you ever thought about that?
Pays attention in class, so that's bullshit. And at the end of his section of the story, I thought I would really not like him when I first watched Avatar, but he grows so much.
And so does John.
Such an interesting character super quickly. So now it's clear.
Yeah, I kind of do realize that John isn't really as that original. I mean, yeah.
Why Jean's arc is seemingly missing pieces. It's not just that Sokka was written better, but more specifically.
No, there's hardly any difference. If anything, Avatar is in the wrong for dragging this shit out.
It actually turns out that a ton of weird things about RWBY happened that way because they were like that in Avatar. That interrogation thing in the first episode of RWBY was always a silly choice. Why take her to this weird dimly lit empty room to invite her to a school? But it makes much more sense if you happen to have seen the first episode of Legend of Korra when Korra gets arrested and interrogated. If a scene in RWBY seems out of place or like a scene from another show,
I mean, she was probably illegally having a gun, and she did lead to the destruction of the freaking store. So she did fight in the store. So even if it was against like criminals.
Just happened for no reason in the middle of this one. It's probably.
But you know, RWBY is just too show don't tell.
Because it did.
They probably
so
didn't
it's pretty
like,
clear.
fully
To the point they literally admit it. That a big problem with RWBY's writing is that the creators are grasping wildly at shows they like for things to recreate in their show in the hopes of crafting a story. It's only technically been written in one sense of the word. It's more of a reconstituted amalgam of things they thought were cool elsewhere. Grind up all that meat and stuff it into a sausage casing, or I guess...
Oh, yeah. It's not like that's how creativity in general works.
In this case, a body pillow. Before, because it didn't seem like it was for you. I guarantee you right now, there's a show in this list that the thing you liked about RWBY came from, and you'd like that show a hell of a lot more.
Yeah, and it's not like... No. For some reason, I actually think I like prefer RWBY because, like I said, it doesn't drag certain arcs. Specifically because, like, Avatar has a lot of episodes. I'm not saying Avatar is bad or anything. It's probably up there with RWBY too for me, but yeah, the show has a lot of episodes.
Let's be honest, it's probably Avatar. A lot of people I've met who are really big fans of RWBY tend to...
and it's also, you know, has a better story, more interesting story than JoJo Part 3. And again, this is my personal opinion. I'm saying and explaining how
not into
I have a
anime,
different
they don't think
opinion
it's for
than you.
them, or they haven't watched it before yet. But if you take the plunge, and then you see how good a show using these ideas could be, you'll very quickly be able to see.
But like,
well,
I'm not going to say and shit on JoJo and Cowboy Bebop, because those shows do make a lot of cool stuff, and a lot differently than RWBY too. So when I'm bored with RWBY, I'm going to watch like JoJo, because I'm not, no matter how good RWBY is, I'm not going to like watch it over and over again. Like, I want new adventures. So
a lot of people with a bit more of a frame of reference are so disappointed with this show. Go pick a
yeah,
show.
yeah. Let's just abuse the fact
From
that
that-
these people were honest about the shows they like. Let's just make fun of them for being honest, so that no other creator ever should ever admit that they have an inspiration. They should never admit the shows that they like, the shows they take inspiration from. Let's just punish those people.
List and have a better time. Seriously. Just make sure it's not Bleach. Don't make the same mistake I did. Please, you mustn't. You have to. There's a scene in Volume 2
Bleach is kind of cool. I mean, the first few arcs,
where it turns out Yang and RWBY
like, it gets unintentionally hated. I'll probably watch Bleach sometime.
have a family dog called Zwei. There's a dog in Cowboy Bebop of the same breed called Ein. Get it? The creators are trying to make a cute reference to a show they like.
It's not a reference. What? None of the shows have 4 girls in a girls' dorm, or a freaking, I don't know. None of the shows have a grim.
They
Like, yeah, like, not one. There isn't like a. Remember, it's a mixture of many different ideas. Creativity is all about taking ideas from many different places, and RWBY does that. So it kind of does look original because of that.
don't seem to have realized they've referenced all the shows they like quite enough already. I was hoping they'd eventually try doing something else. The real impact of all this on RWBY's potential is
Yeah,
that
like, they didn't even like mention all other like inspirations too. Like, they're probably like Blake's
the
design.
things
There's probably
that are truly unique about it.
other
Getting
inspirations as well. Like, there's so many other
because the
inspirations,
world
but
building-
you do realize there isn't a single like show that you point out and say, okay, this is exactly the same as RWBY. Not Avatar, not Soul Eater, not JoJo. They didn't just freaking steal JoJo and change a few things. Like, they took ideas from like their entire lifespan of collection, and they like deliberately made it different.
is vague and really just a loose approximation of 9 other cartoons. All kinds of little tidbits crop up that would be so interesting if they went anywhere, but never will. Remember
Remember that JoJo Part 3 is all about finding Dio and killing him. There are 48 or so episodes of JoJo Part 3, and that's the entire plot of JoJo Part 3. Just saying,
you know, one of
no,
the
just
most
saying,
dangerous weapons.
It's not like there are other shows that have a like not so interesting overarching story but still loved. I still think JoJo Part 3 is fine. It's really cool, if anything.
Ever designed.
One of the
Not
most
just fine, it's pretty cool.
dangerous weapons ever designed.
He wants to be a hero? Great.
I love books.
I think this line annoys me so much because, like, RWBY has a really interesting character trait you could be doing something with.
Most dangerous ever designed.
Yeah, let's
And
just talk about how things could be better and not appreciate how things are, you know?
Doing this?
Let's just be that angry parent who doesn't appreciate what their children is doing and just completely torture their children, saying that they definitely have the potential to be better. They should be better. They must be better. Yeah. Let's just keep on shitting.
Oh, no, you can't. I forbid it. And
Let's
when
just
this
be that abusive parent,
comes
guys.
up, Ruby's talking to Jean, whose deal is he just has a regular sword. Like, it's a punchline. And when I was first watching the show, I was really having my doubts about where things were going. But when this happened, I thought, oh, cool. Ruby's gonna help him design a unique weapon that really...
Yeah, that didn't happen. But, you know, designing weapons take time. And, you know, why the fuck this... she doesn't have the time. She's a student.
works for him. And we're gonna see them coming up with
You
it.
think it took fucking, I don't know, a week to design to that weapon, that probably took months. And probably she did it during her summer break.
Building it and developing as friends, and that's going to be so cool. Jean's going to come into his own and
Oh,
learn things
yeah,
about
yeah.
himself
You're right. A
as he
fan
does.
fiction. You should probably, like, write a fan fiction of RWBY instead of this god-awful video. Dude.
And grow as a fighter and as a person. And there's something really wholesome about learning a skill and building something.
Like, I'm genuinely, like, do like fan fictions, not gonna lie. There are, like, really a lot of fan fictions I do enjoy, and I really wish this was that fan fiction.
A story. That'll be a really
Maybe
cool
like
thing to follow.
it probably wouldn't have much views because people think this is much better than actual cool ass fan fictions, because people don't appreciate fan fictions, they appreciate this shitty video.
It didn't happen for a season because they were doing anime bullshit instead, fighting monsters, dealing with bullies, falling
All of those things are cool,
asleep,
dude. Come
during
on.
pointless exposition. Oh, and in the show as well. And then, for years, I kept thinking, when are they going to do it? When are they going to do it? When are they going to use RWBY's interesting character trait that they just seemingly forgot she has? And then, finally, in Volume 4, they go to a blacksmith, and a character who we've never seen before and never will again upgrades Jean's sword using pieces of his girlfriend's armor. And RWBY rarely, if ever, talks
RWBY only invented one weapon. She's not experienced as a blacksmith. She probably took a lot of time creating Crescent Rose, and Crow probably helped her. So yeah, RWBY's not a blacksmith. She's a warrior. Whoa.
about the fact she made Crescent Rose, and she stops nerding out about weapons except for like once per season, if the writers remember that was her one unique character trait. But I'm sure you're going somewhere with this.
That wasn't her character trait. Just because she created Crescent Rose doesn't make her a blacksmith.
Avatar remake, don't let me distract you. No, I'm not even fucking kidding you. Even the forging of a sword out of some cool material he has is a thing Sokka does in Avatar. It just doesn't stop. It never stops.
Oh my god. Avatar invented blacksmithing, guys. Avatar invented sword creating.
Cowboy Bebop is cool because it's about a man who believes his life is already over, throwing himself into life or death situations to feel alive again. Spike Spiegel carries a weight with him, and you have to watch him do his best to pretend he isn't. Cowboy Bebop is not cool because he's good at spinny kicks and his friend has a robot arm. And frankly, the idea—
And yeah, let's just completely ignore the fact that RWBY also has a character trait. Just because RWBY doesn't want to kill herself doesn't make her less interesting or fun to hang out with compared to Spike. If anything, Spike is interesting, but he's also like not a role model. Whereas RWBY is 15 and has had a good family. Just because, she isn't damaged, broken, doesn't make her a bad character, okay? Just because she's a nice, cute girl doesn't mean she's a bad character.
that that's what really mattered is personally offensive to me. If you really respect
Yeah. When characters are so well written when they want to kill themselves, that's the only way to make characters interesting. If a character is just lovely, bubbly, charismatic, and helpful and nice to other people, then that's a bad character. You can write normal people in a story. You have to.
You should borrow the
write
things that gave it meaning.
Tragic, broken characters.
Not all of this
and suicidal characters. Suicidal characters all the way.
Stuff.
What they're really about is characters. People who you feel things for, who you want.
You shit on the John Bollard. You don't get to say that.
Lots of things in the show are references to other Rooster Teeth properties. There's in-jokes everywhere, posters from other shows, quotes from their podcasts. This store's name is a pun.
Jeez, it's almost like nothing is really original, and the mind is just completely incapable of creating something original.
Walk into
if there's any originality, it's the fact that, Miles Luna existed, Montium existed, is the only Montium that will ever live, and Miles is the only person ever will. Maybe we should appreciate Miles before he dies, because everyone will freaking die. Maybe, you know, not shit on people who are alive and helping and the world be a better place, because you'll regret it when those people freaking die. You know, I bet there are people who shit on Monty too when he was alive, and everyone now is now sympathetic to the dead guy. They were probably shitting on Monty when he was alive, and when he dies, you know, you gotta be respectful.
People really liked that because it's a genuinely simple and cute moment that you don't need to know Rooster Teeth lore
And probably Miles wrote that.
Enjoy, and isn't trying and failing to emulate something else. It's just nice, you know? That's good.
I mean, buddy, you're just going to say... I mean, it's probably invented... probably taken from something else. Maybe not a TV show. Maybe it's something that, I don't know, freaking Monty's mom did to Monty or something. Because, you know... Or maybe Miles' mom, or from somewhere. The idea came from somewhere, okay? It didn't come from nothingness. Nothing comes out of nothingness, okay? You have to understand that. That's why the copyright law is wrong. Stop advocating for copyright law even for you're complaining about copyright law. You're having a double standard.
It's cute. People also really liked the way Penny introduced herself. Because it's genuinely a really nice moment. Like, Weiss accidentally knocks her over.
It's similar to Pinocchio. I'm not complaining about it.
She just goes,
just saying.
Salutations!
That's funny. That's good writing. That's characterizing.
And it's probably written by I don't know, Miles. Maybe Monty, but mostly Miles.
In the second season, Nora starts wearing a boop shirt. They don't have room to make the prom stuff interesting or to connect Monty's fights.
It was interesting. I think the point was that
they don't have
was
room
being
to
a
make
bitch,
the prom stuff interesting or
and not taking a Weiss to a date. And then like Neptune was afraid of actual relationships. Is that how it goes? So yeah, that's also very interesting take that completely like went over his head, because you know, oh yeah, Neptune was like being insecure about how he isn't actually cool, so he was very similar to Jean. You know, Neptune is a character that's like very similar to Jean, that they both try to act like the tough guy, but Jean manages to like realize, hey, I don't want to be the tough guy. I don't need to be the tough guy. I just need to be myself. And Neptune realizes that, oh hey, even though John is weaker than me, he is like similar to me. That he was trying to act tough, but he isn't.
Well, it's in stores now. The show is just a continuous list of references to other things that were good. And by the middle of volume 2.
I mean, it's the issue of modern creators. They don't like usually look at life. They usually look at TV shows and take inspiration from those. But it's fine.
It's referencing...
That's how the memes work. That's how culture
the few good parts of itself. Writing means making decisions and risking making the wrong one. What's acutely frustrating about RWBY is that Miles and Carrie...
There isn't anything there's no mistake in art, honestly.
Don't necessarily
it's expression
always make
and
bad...
The fact that, you know, the RWBY's plot structure is so weird, it just makes it more original. It's so different. Because its plot is so structured so weirdly.
It's that they have done almost everything they can to avoid making them, to abdicate the responsibility of having to write a story of their own. They don't understand exactly why the things they're borrowing actually were enjoyable, which makes it worse, but centrally, they're in this mess because they're going out of their way not to be unique, and thereby failing to do interesting things with...
Yeah, you complain about the John Bully arc. You complain about the ceremony and the dance part. You freaking complain about the train fight. I mean, you didn't complain about the fight, but you did complain about freaking maidens and magic and semblances. So, you know, you don't get to say that.
Or apparently even notice the potential that an original animated work made for the internet with no oversight can have. The show could have been anything, and it wants to be anything other than itself, and that wasted potential will never not be tremendously disappointing. When you take no risks and try to say very little while...
No risks! He shows team coffee
tremendously
and says no
disappointing.
risks.
When you take no risks and try to save
These guys don't have insanely cool designs. They don't have any screen time. Yeah, guys, no risks. They didn't like create a bunch of awesome characters only to use them seldomly. Yeah, no risk, guys.
ever not be tremendously disappointing. When you take no risks and try to say very little while looking like you're saying something important, you get a story element like the faunus.
Okay.
By later in the first volume, we finally sat in a classroom and learned what the faunus are, and also seen the bully character mistreating one of them. The
Why didn't you just watch the whole series and make a video about it?
faunus are a stand-in for the oppressed.
Because like you're only like focused on so many like stupid shit and
Races of the
overwriting
world.
yourself.
Yes, that is correct. I did not misspeak. These guys have to talk about racism now, and I am here for it. I've heard it mentioned that this
I mean, they did talk about racism way better than you did,
aspect of
probably.
the story was originally conceived by
But you know, you're not going to learn anything from this show because you just concluded that this show is dog shit. You know, when you conclude something is dog shit, how can you like learn from it?
Monty, but unfortunately,
That's the problem of ego. That's the problem of criticizing something. How do you learn something if you criticize that something? You need to be passive. You need to be open-minded. You need to accept and love something to learn from something.
the story is being written by the men who brought you My Semblance is Polarity. The big twist in Volume 1 is that Blake is a faunus. She gets mad at Weiss for being a racist and runs away and dramatically takes off her bow to reveal Catty.
Making Weiss a racist is a really bold move. It is also like one of the more interesting moves because it just shows that being racist is very easy. So easy that even Weiss is being racist. Yeah, you know.
Ears. In addition to her normal ears. Have you...
Yeah, you know, that's not something that Cowboy Bebop did. That's not something that even Avatar didn't do. Like, okay, maybe they did talk about racism there. That didn't happen in Soul Eater.
Which fairy tale character Blake is based on yet? Well, I'll tell you, she's Beauty and the Beast. Ugh. Now, I don't know
Why are you
about
mad?
you, but RWBY didn't initially strike me as a show that was trying to be about something this heavy. I mean, for the most part, it's been an adventure.
I mean, it's heavy if you only consider it heavy. Considering that racism exists everywhere, it's kind of hard to not talk about
beating
it.
Up monsters and
If you want to have a good story.
Guys. So when this happened, I don't know, it seemed a little weird. Like, is this particular show, with the tone you've set so far, really ready for something as serious as this?
I'm queen of the castle. I'm queen of the castle.
Like where...
Oh no, like you can't have comedy and like serious stuff in the same show. It's almost like life doesn't have both comedy and serious stuff happening simultaneously or happening in sequence.
The middle of this fairly light-hearted show. So light-hearted.
Yeah, like that's the thing about it. Just makes me mad about you people. You people almost think like you're the freaking author and everything that doesn't go your way is bad. Like that's your own stupidity.
Starts to discuss the horrific
tragedy of the mistreatment of the faunus.
Prior to the faunus rights revolution, more popularly known as the Faunus War,
they begin to explore...
Man, I hope that John didn't make any racist moves because he was sleeping during this lesson.
The topic of racism by using the comedy silly talky man.
Now,
why not? What's the problem with that?
When the main characters aren't fighting Grimm, they're beating the shit out of in-universe minorities. But it's okay, you know they're bad, because they all talk in the evil voice.
Again, like this guy is like trying to make it seem bad, but did you see like Avatar, the characters of Aang beating up people, rebels? Huh? Did you see like them beating up people who were oppressed? You didn't see it. Even if you did, you probably like saw it towards the end, not at the beginning of the story. So I don't know, maybe RWBY is a lot more mature or maybe more interesting or has an interesting start.
I get to kill a Schnee.
Oh, I think he might be a bad guy. Once again, we're seeing the writing problems that made Jean's character...
again, you know, doesn't have to be a bad guy. From his perspective, he's like trying to kill the oppressors, and the Schneeb family, due to Voice's dad being a huge dick, has a really bad name. So this guy probably thinks he's doing the right thing. And from his perspective, maybe it's the right thing. Maybe Weiss is going to become Eren Jeager and start the rumbling. Who knows? In the future, you know, maybe Weiss becomes fucking the founding titan. I don't fucking know. You know, maybe this guy's doing a good thing. We don't know. This guy thinks he's doing the good thing. And that's the thing about villains. That's the thing about people. Every person is the hero of the story. Roman thinks he's the right. He thinks he's the hero. Adam thinks he's the hero.
Oh, I think he might be a bad guy.
Oh, but he thinks he's the right good guy.
Once again, we're seeing the writing problems that made Jean's character so terrible creeping in here. This argument between Weiss and Blake comes to a head.
Yeah.
His character
Yeah, John is such a bad character info. He does
so
everything
creeping in here.
Makes soccer good, except faster.
This argument between Weiss
and doesn't really take much time.
And Blake
and gets to the point faster.
Comes to a head because, at least initially, Weiss was written to be kind of racist.
The White Fang. What an awful bunch of degenerates. I don't particularly trust the faunus.
Her family profited from exploitative faunus labor and maybe slavery, but it's hard to tell exactly what because the show is written badly.
Infamous for its controversial labor forces.
And she seems to take the opportunity to be shitty.
What?
Badly.
Isn't that,
infamous
I don't know. Don't you like hate exposition, dude? You hate exposition. You can't be saying
And she seems to take the opportunity to be shitty about faunus when it presents itself.
Stop calling him a degenerate. He's a person.
Oh, I'm sorry. Would you like me to stop referring to the trash can as a trash can?
But at some...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they made Weiss... Volume 1 and 2 Weiss is fucking racist,
Point down the line... The writers were smart enough to see a problem with writing a main character with this flaw. Weiss being racist might affect the audience's ability to relate to the character, wouldn't it? The creators want the audience to like this lady as they...
Dude! She shits on RWBY and like goes so, like, becomes so egoistic and shits on RWBY in Volume 1 and she's a racist in Volume 2. I think that's a pretty bold move. Like, regardless of... regardless of the fact that she becomes a better person later on.
Supremacist. So her beliefs about the faunus are quietly dropped off screen, and we are to assume she's anti-racist.
So what? He's going to like complain about RWBY having taking no risks, but also complaining when RWBY takes risks.
Okay, in Volume 2 she says she wants to become a huntress specifically to try to do better than her family name has been in the past, and she doesn't like what her father is doing, implicitly saying she became a fighter who protects the world because she wants to not be like her racist family. This is done instead of having her grapple with her prejudice towards a group of people and growing and changing and...
She does change. Like, the fact that like Blake lashes out and like says he's a person... And she later does admit that she was being an asshole, and that's not hard to understand. Like why Weiss came to that conclusion.
You know, akin to what a story would do. They made her racist and then rewrote her to never.
She learned, dude. Come on.
Have been racist.
She learned that freaking Blake was also a faunus, so you know. Maybe generalizing faunus was not a very good idea.
Are far too precious about their characters to permit them to have, like, flaws, or lives, or even personalities beyond cookie-cutter heroics.
Weiss is a smart girl who learns fast. She got rewritten. Let's just use terms just to make Weiss look bad.
Books. They don't need to learn anything or grow.
She learned, dumbass!
Which makes them fundamentally uninteresting. And
just because, you know, she's fast at learning doesn't mean you have to shit on her.
Same way.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just she's just way more smarter than you. Maybe you need more freaking entire volumes and seasons to realize that racism is bad.
The writers are far too precious about their world itself. They want their world to not be so fundamentally flawed that a group like the White Fang is necessary. You see, the issue here is the White Fang are basically in the right. The faunus are an oppressed people whose struggle for
Because if you do think, realize that the person who is racist and never like and struggled and held on to that racist ideology, there is Adam, who for 6 volumes until he dies didn't learn that racism is bad. He was thinking he was fighting racism, but he became a racist and he died a racist. So there's the character that you want, but you're not going to mention him. Hey, you're probably going to like complain and bitch about how Adam is bad, just like how everyone is doing.
And equality is, immediately, the instant you actually think about it, the morally correct side of the argument. Spoilers for real life, but we recently discovered in lab tests on mice that racism is wrong. But like, if you have a movement whose purpose is to liberate an oppressed group, that means your society has some incredibly deep-set problems, right? People who need liberating from something? You know, the Black Panthers didn't pop into existence because things were fine in the 60s, right? Oh, I really hate hbomb's political videos, but I love his media stuff. It's way better. Ha! Located in this by living in that society and not doing anything about the way those people are treated. Basically, they'd be writing a pretty grim story where almost everyone is, on some level, racist or at least okay with an unequal system, because a lot of shit would need to change if there's a group like the White Fang running around, and anyone sitting around enjoying the status quo instead of doing anything wouldn't be a heroic or positive character.
There's a huge problem with this mentality. People need to have a life. The reason the White Fang and the humans are in conflict is because they don't enjoy life. They don't know what love is. They don't have friends or people they really like emotionally care about. And one of the like aspects of why Team RWBY is so much like better than all the other characters like Ironwood or Adam is that they are like trying to be happy. They are focused on making themselves happy, enlightened, and they're trying to find love and peace within themselves first before tackling all this political issue. But if you don't have like love inside yourself, if you don't like focus on yourself first and just go straight saying, oh, all the problems will be solved if you just kill all the humans or the faunus, then you're just going to end up like being Adam. Adam thinks exactly like this dude. In fact, this dude thinks very similarly to Adam. He has a very similar attitude to similar thinking process to Adam. Adam thinks that, you know, relaxation, having fun, and enjoying loving one another is wrong. That's why Adam spends the rest of his life killing people. And that's why he fails, because killing and fighting is the only thing he knows. He doesn't know how to communicate with other people. He doesn't know what love is. He doesn't know compassion. He doesn't understand other people. He only has hatred, and he only enjoys fighting for his own freedom, taking other people's freedom away, and he thinks that's going to make him free. He thinks that killing all the humans and then trying to solve this issue by violence is going to fix everything. It doesn't. It really doesn't. Like, RWBY is a good person because she had a good family. If she had a similar like backstory to like Weiss, you can't even blame like Weiss for being a racist because she had a like bad childhood. She wasn't born like this. That's not her true nature. She had a really bad parent, a drunk mother, and a bad dad who constantly like taught her that the faunus was evil. And she is a racist because she was taught like that. She is has a chance to be a better person, and she did become a better person because of Team RWBY.
Have a bit too much social commentary, making everyone really uncomfortable about the parallels to real-world history, and in some places the real-world present.
So yeah. That doesn't, exist in Avatar. That doesn't exist in Soul Eater. But you completely ignored the fact that RWBY has that one thing that's very original and very bold that it had, but now you're just framing it as a bad thing.
Which would be an interesting story.
What an asshole.
I'd like a story like that, really, but which would kind of suck the fun out of your anime cartoon about killing monsters with sci-fi rocket fists. Boop. People
Again, anime being talking about racist, super original. Avatar isn't that anime, even if it does talk about racist.
I'm gonna buy.
So RWBY is, original, or at least very refreshing because of that. That's the word. The word refreshing is way much better than the word original, because nothing is original. It's just refreshing because I haven't watched many stories similar to RWBY. Even if I did, they're only very similar in certain ideas and concept, whereas RWBY just meshed a whole bunch of other shit and is being super bold about it because it's a small team. This team it has a really good heart and is super open and to the idea of presenting racism in their story, being bold. They are very bold people.
Your boop.
The fact that the faunus arc exists is a fantastic
T-shirts.
If there's anything that's better in volume 1 to 5, that's better than volume 6, 7, 8, is the fact that the faunus arc existed and it wasn't ignored. Volume 6, 7, 8 are good, but racism doesn't happen in those, so it's bad. So it's it's not as good. So that's I want racism in volume 9, please make volume 9 have racism in it. Yes, that's what I want.
If they're sad about racism. So the writer's objective was to make a show which explores racism, but without making anyone too uncomfortable, without risking actually saying anything about us.
Nah, people are uncomfortable about it. Voices are fucking racist. Blake tries to help the humans, but people think Blake is a pacifist and is going to doom the faunus and make them the slave of humanity again. I saw many people on the internet either criticizing Weiss for being a racist, or criticizing Blake for being a pacifist, criticizing Adam, but it's fine because Adam is an idiot.
Society, and without risking saying that the White Fang
they did take risks.
Might have a point, so everyone can have fun watching people beat them up, because they're the bad guys. We wouldn't want any implications to think about. So firstly, the mistreatment that appears in the story is always incredibly minor. It's established that the faunus have already had a civil rights movement of...
If anything, them beating up rebels just makes the story much more complicated and complex.
...sorts, and been granted equality.
Kind of like real life,
but just aren't really getting it yet in some places.
Despite being promised
Oh yeah. Cowboy Bebop did racism so much better, guys.
Some specific people...
JoJo did racism
kind
better.
Of racist. Faunus get bullied by some people in school. There's a no faunus sign on one bar. There's nothing wrong with the system anymore. Individual racists are the problem. Since we aren't living in a racist nightmare world, we can feel individual racists are the...
Society does exist with many individuals. Individuals make the society. So if you manage to change one opinion of one individual, you may be able to change the opinion of the group. That's the important part. You start with one. You don't start with the group.
Problem. Since we aren't living in a racist nightmare world, we can feel less bad about the status quo of the setting, and more okay with the idea that the White Fang are bad. But even then,
no, they're not okay. Even if the characters are having fun, there's still racism and wars happening, conflicts are happening outside. But just because the world is going to shit doesn't mean you have to suffer for them, for their sake. You have to be happy so that you can spread those happiness. Find your own happiness so that you can spread those happiness. Being happy is not wrong.
We're blowing up the businesses of people who refuse to serve faunus, or attacking people with unethical faunus labor practices, which I assume is what a controversial labor force is. Half the people watching might not realize these are supposed to be the bad guys. You can't have a story where the liberation movement has a point, because then you're writing a story that's slightly more complex than help, we need to stop the bad guys. And that's not fun. If you're...
Remember, this guy was complaining about Adam. and saying that Grimm was cool.
Agitating for progress in a nice way, politely asking for racism to end like good second-class citizens. But then a new leader stepped in who was more violent and aggressive, and now they're the bad guys and not respectable anymore. The problem is you're now effectively writing a story in which the most prominent villains are an oppressed people who are reacting wrong to being oppressed. Yeah, sure, racism is bad, but you're supposed to take it up with your congressman, guys. There's no nuance here. The White Fang are written to be as unequivocally in the wrong as possible.
I mean, are they? I mean, yeah, they are kind of are, but isn't that kind of like similar to real life? And remember, this fight, this like train fight, wouldn't exist if White Fang weren't also racist and wasn't trying to kill all the humans. So,
White Fang member we're shown.
But if everyone was a good guy, this story wouldn't exist. Come on.
Is that guy who didn't care about killing innocent civilians with bombs, and who later turns out to want to kill all humans because he sees his people as the superior race.
The faunus are the dominant species of this planet.
Oh, also he wants to kill his ex-girlfriend for breaking up with him over the fact he's evil.
Yeah. Why are you mad? There are like people like Adam a lot, sadly.
To write an obvious...
Like, Adam isn't an original character that came out of nowhere. There are people like him in real life.
Into the story has burned away any relevance to the issues the show was supposedly trying to explore with this aspect of the story.
I will make it my mission to destroy everything you love.
What is the show trying to say?
I mean, if he was the good guy, he wouldn't have been like destroying all the human properties and schools and killing a bunch of innocent people. You know, but you know, life is kind of like that. I mean, Team RWBY probably killed a few faunus too. So
racism is bad,
to each in their own.
Don't kill civilians or your ex-girlfriend? Okay, if you want to talk about real-world issues, you should actually do it.
Oh yeah, like real people don't kill real people. That never happens, dude. Only cartoon villains kill the people they hate. Only cartoon peoples are abusive towards their girlfriend. It only exists in cartoons. People like Adam doesn't exist in the real world.
You don't.
The real world is so much sunshine that there's no point in creating a character like Adam. Yeah.
You don't have to. You don't have
to
have a take on racism. And you especially don't have one when you set your story in a fantasy world where racism is over and the real bad guy is a protest group that turned evil.
I never wanted this! I wanted equality!
So, hey, remember Velvet? That one character who seems like some members of the team intended to be more of a part of the story, and then she just wasn't? It makes it just a little bit more egregious.
Oh, yeah. Thinking that the faunus should be also a part of every racism story. Way to generalize all faunuses, dude.
The story is kind of about the persecution of her fucking race? Like,
why do you assume that? You aren't the writer, dude.
How do you fuck this up this badly? And for the record, that is not how human male teenagers would treat bunny girls if they were real. They would wait on them on hand and foot and beg them to step on me. Absolutely no one was holding a gun to Miles and Kerry's heads and saying to make the show about how they think Malcolm X could have toned it down a little. They did this by choice. They were given free rein to write a story and connect the dots on Monty's fights, and this is what they made? Guys, I don't think you have as much to say on this topic as you initially thought.
You know, instead of seeing, oh, you know, the humans have a side, they just...
Oh, yeah, sure. You know, you're so much better to the point that, you know, you're the one who's bullying Miles and Carrie and, like, making them look like, making the butt of your joke. You're the one who knows what racism is and what's not. How people should write racism. Yeah, I get it. I get what you mean.
He turned into, yeah, let's get rid of the humans and then they'll respect us because they'll be dead.
Let me just read that back to you just to make that more clear. He turned into, yeah, let's get rid of the humans and then they'll respect us because they'll be dead. Kerry.
Again, that's such a cool line. Because, you know, the only way to make racist people respect you is to kill them, I guess. they can at least disrespect you if they're dead.
Notice that they have managed to write a show that tries, fails, but tries to deal with the impact of racism on a group of people in society, but in such a way that they didn't have to have too many non-white characters. Instead, they invented a fictional race which consists almost entirely in the story of white women with cute animal ears and a cool buff white guy with a tail.
He's brown. Also, Neptune is dark color skinned. Also, Marrow exists in Volume 7, so the show does have a few Asians. I mean, Yang is literally Chinese. And also, Yatsuhashi, Yatsuhashi exists. He's black. So, what's your point?
This was a really clever decision. It turns out.
Oh yeah, wait, what the fuck? Neptune isn't black.
This was
I mean, they kind of
really
do live
clever
in
decision.
the desert land, so they're a bit tan, I guess.
It turns out the way to get weebs to understand race
Also, Ren is Asian.
is to make the target a cat girl. The White Fang are like the Black Panthers, but with the emphasis on the panther. I mean, sure, regular racism is over in Remnant, but here in the real world, if there were too many black characters, some of your audience members might start to smell politics. Now who'll buy our boop shirts? Black Lives Matter, especially when they're white people with vague animal characteristics. But, you know, we can't risk having too many people of color in our show.
I actually did hear stories about how RWBY almost got cancelled after Volume 7 because Volume 7 also was heavily on the political side. So there's that. If you think that RWBY isn't going all out, you can blame society on that one. Don't blame the creators, please.
About racism. By the way, you know this animated bit I showed you? That's Blake telling her backstory to Sun. Yes, Sun, another faunus. She is telling the backstory of a movement faunus are intimately aware of, that Sun says he knows about.
Are you familiar with the White Fang?
Of course. I don't think there's a faunus on the planet who hasn't heard of them.
Which describes the history of the treatment of faunus to one of the only other faunus in the story.
Yeah, I think that's kind of an ass.
Exposition, guys. Have her be telling.
So what? There's only like 3 actual criticism in this 2-hour video that I actually agreed with. And I'm not really sure. Maybe this one wasn't that bad.
To someone who might not know it. Like any other character in the show.
Have you told your friends any of this?
God, even Sun's asking why she's telling him. And what's up with all of these teens preparing elaborate speeches about their lives and the world?
I mean, the important factor is that Blake is saying that she was in the movement and she had inside info. So, you know, I take it back. Only like 2 or 1 actual criticism that I agree with. Blake is saying to Sun that she was in the actual movement, whereas even if Sun is a faunus, that doesn't mean he was actually involved with the movement from the inside, so...
If you try and get away with a monologue that long in my household, your parents tell you you're a horrible son and they hate you. When you remove all of the moral and ethical dimensions from a story, the story disappears too. When it comes down to it, the White Fang are a bunch of angry bad guys in masks, and all this talk about how they're just reacting to mistreatment. But don't worry guys, things are fine. They're just overreacting. Is boring window dressing on a story that's basically about how we have to stop the bad men from blowing up the city and stealing all of the precious jewels. The gang gleefully kill dozens of White Fang members, throwing them off a train at high speed where their remains will be shattered and smashed into a pulp.
Yeah, they probably died. Yeah, Team RWBY did kill quite a few people. I mean, if you watch Volume 6, they directly kill someone in front of the screen, like not just like throwing them off or an accidental kill. They literally like stab them to death. RWBY doesn't take any risks.
Unburied in a collapsing tunnel covered in monsters and explosives, and then later the only exit from this monster-infested tunnel is sealed shut, trapping any of the survivors inside to die horrible deaths. And sure, maybe they experienced racism and suffering, but they decided to be evil, so they got what was coming. If you kill one of these guys, your conscience is clear.
Yeah, I guess they definitely should have talked about that more. But you know...
Oh look, that one was black. Do you feel represented yet? I'm not saying you should have sympathy for these characters and that killing them is wrong. What I'm saying is, it should be at least slightly more complicated than this. And the fact the story is written so that these characters are just evil is a massive flaw. It's like...
They aren't just evil, I guess. They are just people. kind of like how Weiss was a racist and Blake was actually in the rebel force herself and was helping them to an extent, and Yang didn't really do that many bad things. I mean, Yang and Ruby doesn't really do bad things. And yeah, I mean, Yang and they did kill a bunch of faunus.
Like in The Dark Knight Rises, Bane basically has a point. Gotham is corrupt and the people are oppressed by a system that seeks to profit from them and find new ways to spy on and criminalize them if they resist. The Occupy Wall Street movement had a lot to say, and a lot of it was true.
It's a stock exchange. There's no money you can steal.
Really? And why are you people here?
But if you put
and Adam had a point too, but
that in your film,
Adam had a point.
That means something's deeply wrong with your actual.
But he didn't have the whole point. He just had hatred, and he was oppressed. But he wasn't going for equality. He was going for superiority. So.
Society. So Bane also wants to kill everyone with a nuke. So now when Batman beats the shit out of him and everyone who stands in his way, it's not because Batman is a tool of a corrupt establishment. It's because he's heroically stopping this definitely bad
Yeah, they are stopping. I mean, Team RWBY is stopping guys who are literally hijacked a train and is packaging a bunch of dust to blow up the city.
Bad guy.
So yeah, RWBY are the bad guys here.
From killing everyone.
And I guess they could have talked about the fact that they killed a bunch of honest people, but they did talk about the White Fang a lot. And they have talked about the fact that the White Fang was a good organization, but just turned violent.
Complexity of the story exists purely to sound cool and get thrown away before it gets anyone to think about the actual problems with our world. The Dark Knight Rises.
And also, this dude is just not talking about Volume 5, where the racist blood did get resolved. And I actually did think they did it very well too, because one of the things is that, the other solution is to talk. Blake too, she talked to the faunus and said that, okay, humans have been mistreating you, but they are the people of this earth. They do this respect, love, and compassion for, just like anyone deserves love and compassion, and they need to help the other people. And gain their trust and work with the humans, not against them, and try to understand, talk one another. And thanks to that, the people of the faunus country goes to Haven and stops Adam and his group. So that was a really cool thing that this guy didn't talk about.
This is complete bollocks because of
he probably will complain about it too.
Might have a point is consciously rewritten into a bad man in a mask with a big bomb who Batman needs to punch to win. Yay, the good guys hitting the bad guy. Don't think about Wall Street. The writers of RWBY want to look like they're talking about serious real world.
I mean, that's the thing about writing a story, is that you can't no matter how much you try, because the whole reason I write story, the whole reason all artists try to create stories is that they try to attempt to be better than the version they were before. I want to be the better me that is better than the me that was there after yesterday. I want to be better than the me after yesterday, and I want to become better and better, be more understanding, and try to create a story and a complicated theme in order to challenge myself and try to understand what's going on with racism myself. But this is a common story because it's the truth. When people don't want to communicate, when people feel frustrated about communicating, they go straight into violence. They think that, let's just eradicate the opposite side. The reason, the Dark Knight Rises, the reason Attack on Titan, RWBY are saying so many similar things to racism is because it's true. Life is just like that. You don't destroy racism by one side trying to talk and the other side being evil. you stop racism when both sides are trying to compromise. So when the more aggressive side is trying to not compromise and fight back, there is no choice but to fight. That's the reason why Adam had to die. Yang gave Adam several times chance to escape. Blake tried to talk to Adam several times. When even during the final fight, Blake was saying over and over and again, like, let the past go. Adam, it doesn't have to be this way. Standing here, I realize you were just like me, trying to make history. But who's to blame? The right from wrong. When our guard is down, I think we'll both agree that violence creates violence. But in the end, it has to be this way. Yeah, because in the end, it has to be this way because Adam just won't listen. He isn't willing to compromise. He wants to destroy all the humans. He wants to kill Blake, and he isn't going to stop until his dreams become a reality. He is chained by his dreams, so Adam has to be killed. Yang says, okay, just leave us alone. We don't want anything to do with you. And then Adam says, oh, you're just afraid. I'm going to fucking kill you and fucking, I don't know, rape Blake, or I don't know, torture Blake. I don't know what he was trying to do. So he has to die. Yang has to kill him.
But they don't want to run the risk of spoiling the cartoon fun, and they certainly don't want to risk the people in their audience who think talking about racism is...
Oh no, RWBY has so much variety, has both serious topics and funny moments. Oh no, I hate variety. It's almost like life itself doesn't have a variety or something. You know, you can blame God for creating both seriousness and comedy, life and death. You know, you can blame the universe we are living in. Like, if you have a problem with comedy and seriousness meshing together, you have a problem with life itself. Because life is just like that. Life exists in opposites. Love, hate, comedy, seriousness, night and day, light and darkness, life and death.
For SJWs to stop watching, so we're left with generic masked bad guys who want to use a train to blow up a city and try to cut off one of our main characters' heads with a chainsaw.
I mean, I'm pretty sure like certain violent protest groups would want to do that if they have the power. I mean, Russians are currently trying to kill all the Ukrainians with bombings right now, so yeah, you can call them, the Russian soldiers, generic villains like the White Fang, but you know, it's happening right now, buddy. I don't think RWBY is that original in creating a generic villain.
Of them have sad backstories behind them being evil murderers who want to kill their ex-girlfriend? Oh wow, how clever. No thanks. In the actual modern day, right now, in fact literally right now, there are people marching out there in the streets against systemic injustices, racism and police brutality, and a not insignificant amount of people are dismissing all of this as opportunism, as looting, rioting, people trying to cause chaos and anarchy for no reason. When you tell a story with such a massive fixation on a group like this, what you're doing is saying that there are people in real life like this. RWBY is a deeply stupid person's idea of what racial politics are like.
Why are you like complaining about RWBY being bad and just presenting evidence as to how RWBY is similar to what is happening in real life? Because the White Fang did start out like just like BLM and a peaceful protest, and it just got wild after it was resisted. Like the humans just beat them over, and they probably realized that the humans aren't going to listen to them, so it's better to just kill the humans.
Amount of people are dismissing all of this as opportunism, as looting, rioting, people trying to cause chaos and anarchy for no reason. When you tell a story with such a massive fixation on a group like this, what you're doing is saying that there are people in real life like this. RWBY is a deeply stupid person's idea.
Yeah, it's stupid, bro. Why are you even complaining?
Racial politics are like. Watching this show through now, I can't help but be struck with the kind of horrible feeling that some people are going to watch this and go, yeah, that's what they're like. And the idea of this show playing into people's worst instincts is frankly disgusting. But even on a base...
Wait, what? Are you saying that RWBY like gives the wrong messages? To be fair, like, do you like remember the context of what Team RWBY did? Because I think Team RWBY is mostly in the right. They stopped a train full of bomb or Grim or whatever. Bomb, Grim, they probably had both. And in the process, yes, they did kill, but not like willingly. They had to like stop those people, and when you fight, you do kill people. Oh, you know, even when you're trying to defend someone, you have to defend by killing the opponent. That's how life is, buddy. Cry about it. And RWBY just speaks facts. Like Blake and Yang probably could have like detained Adam and tried to even more talk no jutsu him if they had more power. But unfortunately, they didn't. So the only option they had was to kill Adam, and that's, you know, life. If we had like such infinite power to restrain people without killing them, we will probably use it. But unfortunately, the case is we don't have that such luxury when Adam is such an equal opponent, and one moment of letting your guard down is going to get you killed. The only option you have is to kill Adam.
Basic story level, having such a simplistic faction like this driving so much of the plot.
Oh no, it's so simplistic, even though it's very similar to what's happening and has happened in real life.
Means that all their parts of the plot basically suck. The potential of this entire...
Yeah. I bet fucking Dio is a much more compelling villain too.
Plot means that all their parts of the plot basically suck.
I mean, I'm sorry, I like Dio. Like this guy, if I like am like hitting on other shows just to make RWBY look good, I'm sorry, but you know, this video is to blame.
The potential of this entire aspect of the...
I am adding a fire to his, to the hatred of fandoms and fandom fights.
The story is seemingly purposefully declawed.
Maybe I'm just like the White Fang. I'm just trying to like fight for the freedom and respect of RWBY fandom and the RWBY show. Then I turn violent and then I go like full Adam and then sing a song like you'll see I'm your hero. Maybe I'll do that in the future. I don't know. But you know, that's life. Something like that happens to a lot of people.
Rendering the whole thing as pointless as if it hadn't happened. The bad guys could have just been some evil, corrupted monsters who chose to be bad because they're bad, for no reason, and the story would have been better because it would have been more honest and a lot less uncomfortable. The end end point of this bottomless pit of compromises is, well, a compromised story. A story about nothing, telling you very unconvincing...
It's a story about everything. I mean, you can say it's about nothing, but I would say it's a story about everything. Love, hate, racism, politics, social justice, people's social relationships, life and death, power, weakness, naivety, blah 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 blah. Whatever that is in life, it's probably in RWBY.
That it's about something actually important in our world right now. No wonder the introduction didn't mention them. They might as well not have been there. We can't really recount the history of RWBY without talking about the death of its creator, can we? After the end of Volume 2 and while in early production on Volume 3, Monty...
Yeah. Let's just play the victim card. Let's just try to emotionally manipulate people, even though you have been consistently shitting on Monty's show. The first 2 seasons, like at least the haters do like have the audacity to not, at least have the respect to not shit on the first 2 seasons. Because, you know, if you shit on the first 2 seasons, you shit on Monty's work. Monty thought it was good. I mean, I'm pretty sure, like, if Monty watched this video, and if he was like, he was on a talk show, he would probably like disregard your criticisms. And if he like met you in real life and was chilling with you, he probably would have like tried to counter argue a lot of your arguments, because there's no way Monty, the director, is fine with all of this. He probably looked at racism and thought like, wow, I'm so glad that Miles and Luna was here. There were 3 to 4 people writing the story. There is no way they got it wrong. And they kind of didn't. Like looking back on it, it's really hard to say like Team RWBY did a bad job. And even if they did a bad job, it's like such as Weiss being a racist, it's probably intentional and is called out by someone else, or they improve on that mistake.
Away very suddenly of an allergic reaction during routine surgery. Monty's death was a really tragic event that affected a lot of people, both at Rooster Teeth and in Monty's audience. Monty was well known as a relentlessly passionate worker, and a phrase commonly attributed to him by many, including his widow, was "keep moving forward." So, to carry on his passion, almost in tribute to his life, they continued making the show. I'm going to keep analysing the show now, but as a fan of Monty's work since Haloid came out, I want to mention that I don't feel like I've had room to really celebrate his specific skill and talent in this video, so I'm working on another one just about that. I've been a fan of Monty's for most of
Yeah, but if you want to do that, you also have to like include entirety of volume 1, 2, 3, and even volume the other volumes too, because those fights, you know, follow a very similar like trend to Monty's style, because you know, even the people who were hired are specifically taught and instructed to write it in a similar fashion to how Monty animated fights. Especially the volume 8 fights are very similar to Monty's fights, and even if they aren't similar, they are very good and unique, I would say, very refreshing. There are some certain fights that I really liked in volume 8, 7. Yeah, the final few fights of volume 7 are very similar to Monty's style.
Of my adult life, and I've wanted to gush about
Like maybe not as fast, because they do want to like not make the characters look extremely mechanically fast.
Stuff is so great, but to make sure this video has any kind of decent...
But you know, just because they like changed a little bit of speed a lot, doesn't mean that they're not like following Monty's style or not appreciating and not learned from what it's good, how good it is.
To cut most of it out. I'll try and have that video done soon.
Like if there's any bigger, if there's the biggest fans of Monty are probably the people who are creating the fights in Monty in volume 7, 6, 7, and 8 now, because those like starting from volume 6, 7, and 8, those fights become really good because they are very similar to Monty's style, the music usage and the scene cutouts.
So volume 3 obviously struggles with a lot.
Like those animators have rewatched Monty's fights a lot. Like if this bumbling guy like watched and did that many research, then the people who are actually working on the show probably did more research than this guy.
Lot of issues. It's still got a lot of the things we've already discussed. It has the additional problem of the team having to make do without its original creator. But if anything, the biggest problem Volume 3 has is that it gets good. Volume 3 opens on a big tournament between teams from all the anime warrior schools of the world.
Every single anime out there eventually does their tournament arc, and you know, we wanted RWBY to have its version of that.
Because how better to prove that RWBY is just like an anime than to give it a tournament arc? I mean, a story would have been nice, but mid-fight, the announcers, played by the professors from the first 2 seasons, explained the entire tournament system.
For those of you just now...
And I don't want to like shit this guy on too much because, like I said, finding volume 1, 2 inferior to the other volumes is very rare. I mean, I kind of had a similar opinion too. I just said volume 3, 6, 7, and 8 are my favorites, which all happened after Monty died. So I'm sorry, Monty. No hard feelings. To be fair, I did put Yang versus Neo and Pyrrha's fight with Kaiden's group really high in my fight lists, to be honest. So, buddy, no hard feelings.
The show pauses to tell you how the entire system works. Again, exposition, guys, that's just not how you do it.
If this is your first time watching, allow...
The story requires an explanation or an exposition by the announcers.
To break down the rules.
And you're complaining about people talking.
They're explaining this in
if you don't want to talk, you probably shouldn't like be on the internet. If you hate people talking to one another, you should just go to a mountain or forest or something.
Middle of the fight, at the worst possible time to be explaining it. In fact, look at how even worse done this is when you realize it's being done diegetically. Imagine watching the tournament on TV when, during a fight that is currently underway, the announcers interrupt to tell you how the tournament works. In case people who've never seen the tournament before just tuned in, there are infinite other ways of conveying this information to the audience, and they chose now, in this incredibly clunky way. If you're just joining us, the objective of golf is to get the ball in the hole in as few strokes as possible. Points are tabulated by the amount of strokes under par. And remember, it's the lowest score that wins. Oh, it appears Jimmy has finished the course while I was talking. So the exposition is about as well done as it's always been. The fights also feel written now.
I mean, you cannot fucking blame the fans for that. Like, they could, start the tournament, have the explanation, and then have the fights. But RWBY fans. RWBY fans are all about fight, so... you'll probably, complain about it regardless.
Much more emphasis is placed on dialogue and specific moves than before, which slows things down and really messes with the pace. If you're just joining us, one of the big problems with the first two volumes was the constant influx of new characters, who aren't on screen enough for you to learn anything interesting about them or care, but manage to suck up enough screen time that the actual characters don't have room to breathe. Remember how Neptune's entire relevance to the story of the show was that Weiss wanted to go to the prom with him? And how after that I never had to bring him up again? So all the screen time that went into him was a waste, wasn't it? The writer...
I mean, to be fair, he's actually saying that the character taking a screen time is a bad thing, when in reality he didn't take that much screen time. And sometimes, characters do share a screen. They don't have to be mutually exclusive to one another, where they don't have to fight for time. And during a fight, we just see Neptune being cooled. That's it.
Noticed this problem and decided the solution is to add 100 million more characters. Since it's the tournament arc now, just like in real animes, we get new teams to throw into the story.
Because, life is big. RWBY is just much more realistic compared to certain animes. And, certain animes, all animes definitely, try to be logical. And you don't have to, like every single fucking character. These characters just exist to make the world more rich, or just exist because it's logical for them to exist in a tournament.
No, to fight against. And you know exactly which ones you won't see in fights because they're just 2D concept art. But that...
those two... they kind of...
Which ones you won't
look weird, huh?
See in fights because they're just 2D concept.
To be fair, they had that weird emerald panel back there in volume 2, so maybe these two might be in a fight.
Concept art. But that's not all! We also have more characters who are just here now. Winter Schnee, Weiss's sister, is here to not do much of anything, and just...
She does a lot of stuff in the future, pay off.
Kind of turn up for a couple episodes to give Weiss a pep talk and explain for the benefit of the audience how their semblance works. To Weiss, the only other...
Why are you repeating yourself? I get it, go!
Noticed by now, but
turned up after getting name-dropped a bunch in previous seasons. Here's a thing you probably noticed by now, but every character is usually named for a fairy tale character of some kind. Like Ruby is Red Riding Hood, Nora is Thor, Jeanne Arc is Joan of Arc, Blake is fucking bad, and Crow, Glinda, Ozpin, the General, and some others are based vaguely after characters from The Wizard of Oz. Anyway, the gimmick is wearing so thin now that they're really struggling to come up with characters that fit this scheme. In one of the fights, Yang and Weiss fight against Neon Cat, a faunus character inspired by Nyan Cat, and Flint Cole, the son of a dust store owner who Weiss's family— Wait, Flint Cole?
Yeah, it's kind of a bad name. I'm not going to defend that, but it's...
This is like the second black character in the show.
To be fair, his father is a mine worker, so there's a perfectly logical explanation as to why his name is like that.
His name—
You can blame his father.
His name is Flint Cole!
He isn't the only black character, dude, come on.
Oh no! Okay, so it's not as bad as it sounds. It's actually a clever reference to Rooster Teeth's Minecraft Let's Play.
Dude, I got Cole and Flint.
Oh, you're set. That'd be a cool name, Flint Cole.
Would it
Be
though?
like a private, yeah, you'd be like an international private investigator,
You'd have
murder
to be
mystery
black,
type.
though, right? I dig it.
What's his weapon called anyway?
Yeah, I mean, that's cool. They didn't have like any bad intention of it. They just went like, Flint cool. That's cool. Let's make the black character.
Characters' weapons have names. They get mentioned in behind-the-scenes material or named in the show. Crescent Rose,
One of the most
Murtanasta.
I hate it so much that this guy knows more about RWBY than I do.
Gambol, Shroud, but
Even I like it so much. But that's the thing about RWBY, you know. But I guess that's the thing about, you know, love. When you love something, you just kind of forget about it because you're like one with that thing. You're fully satisfied with it. But when you hate something, you are obsessed with that thing.
Flint Cole doesn't appear.
Did you think about that thing? You try to do research just to one-up the creators and make an honest criticism. I don't have any like obligation to research RWBY because I love RWBY. And I'm not trying to make an internet essay trying to convince you that why RWBY is shit. Just responding to this guy's strange arguments over here.
Materials, so we've not had an opportunity to learn his weapon's name. So the RWBY wiki has had no choice but to list it as weapon trumpet.
Yeah, it's awesome. Again, is there any other character in the anime that has a trumpet as a weapon? You know, RWBY is so unoriginal, guys. Oh, it's so unoriginal. What? Yeah, let's just fucking like dump and shit on people's creativity. Cool, dude.
But the thing about season 3 is that it gets good. Midway through this volume, the plot of RWBY starts.
Yeah, this is the worst aspect about RWBY. RWBY gets better after fucking Monty dies. Why?
And say, hey,
like volume 1 and 2 were good, but like volume 3 is gooder. So why does this show get better after Monty dies? I don't get it.
What's actually happening here is there are 4 maidens, women with incredible magical powers, not like semblances or dust. They're not magic. This is real magic. Each time a maiden dies, someone else inherits the maiden's power. Oh, so let's just Avatar again? Really?
Reincarnation. Also, not an original idea that's exclusive to Avatar. You clearly don't know about Buddhism. Also, there's a pretty good chance that reincarnation is actually a scientific thing too. I mean, it might be real. I definitely think reincarnation makes more sense than heaven and hell. Because, you know, fucking Christianity and is stupid. I'm sorry, Christians out there. Heaven and hell is just dumb and doesn't make any logical sense.
Okay, each of the maidens represents one of the 4 seasons.
Whereas reincarnation actually makes more sense.
It's the 4 seasons, not the 4 elements, so it's not like Avatar. Oh, hang on, there's 4 different elements of dust, aren't there? Wow, it's Avatar all the way down, isn't it? It's really boring, and the rules of who gets to be a maiden and why are really silly, and the
So I actually think it has also like some implications to Buddhist theology and Buddhist findings, because what Buddhists also deduced, or what they scientifically try to say. I'm sorry. Can I talk about? Oh yeah, let's talk while Crow is on the screen. What Buddhists try to say, and all what they say and what they have experienced or supposedly from their meditation is that your next life, your next like where your soul gets reincarnated to, is entirely dependent on your last thought before you die. So if you were thinking about money and that was your last thought when you died, there's a very good chance that you'll be born in a rich family, or at the very least, in your next life you'll have a desire for richness. If you were thinking about women and sex, maybe you'll, I don't know, be born in a in a sex dungeon. I don't know. Maybe if you were thinking about, maybe like that last thought is very important. So I think it's not just Avatar. I think they're also like there's like 3 or 4 writers there, and even then they are doing a heavy research, so they probably stumbled upon Buddhist findings. So yeah, maybe that has something to do with it, because I don't think the idea came from Avatar. It didn't.
How does the power choose?
Through a series of stupid and convoluted rules.
The writers made the
Power choose.
Through a series of stupid and convoluted rules.
The writers made the genuinely clever decision to have him annoyed and bored by most of the characters and plot of RWBY.
Did you miss me? Did you miss me?
Nope.
Crow spends half.
Also, you do realize that Crow is doing this just to like emotionally distance himself from them, and also he's a freedom fighter. He likes to complain about society a lot.
Ridiculing all the characters that have been taking themselves seriously for hours with no one questioning them before.
If you were one of my men, I would have you shot.
If I was one of your men, I'd shoot myself.
So even if
that was probably a line that Miles wrote, he isn't going to mention it. He's just not going to give the credit.
If you aren't really enjoying the story or the ridiculous amount of plot being dumped in your lap regarding the maidens and Cinder, the real villain of the last 2 seasons who hasn't done much, who it turns out actually has stolen half of a maiden's power and might inherit the other half if the maiden dies, it's not so bad because another character in the scene isn't enjoying it either. It's ironic that everyone else is bird-brained. So it turns out that the story's really always been about these 4 maidens, each representing one of the 4 seasons, and Cinder wanting to cause enough commotion that she can get to the Fall Maiden and kill her to ensure she gets her power. There's some pretty genuine drama now, as Pyrrha is offered the choice to take the maiden's soul.
Yeah, Monty, man, I wish you were alive. Like, I imagine just fucking Volume 3 with Monty alive. That would have been a masterpiece, dude. There would have been so many insane fights. We probably would have seen that Yang and Adam fight, instead of it just being cut to Yang's arm being like cut off. Like, see, having 2 Yang versus Adam fight would have been amazing.
Makes it easier to ignore that the plot is basically yet another Avatar thing. There being people with magical powers whose ability—
Oh my god, Avatar invented magic, guys.
And makes Yang think her guy's attacking her after a round has ended. And while she thinks she's defending herself, the rest of the world sees what's actually happening, which is Yang breaking a guy's fucking leg for no reason. Don't worry, he's a villain and he's in on it and he has robot legs, so it's fine. But no one knows he has robot legs, so this causes
yeah, like, I really don't fucking understand this guy. Like, he's just breezing the shit out of Volume 3 and also, like, shitting on Miles Luna when Miles Luna probably wrote the majority of Volume 3. So, buddy, why are you shitting on the things you like? The person who created the thing you like?
a lot of unrest among the people watching and everyone seeing it on TV, and fear and anxiety attract Grimm, so they all start ominously moving toward the city. And Yang's freaking the fuck out because she thinks she's losing her mind and everyone's mad at her. It's like, plot! There's plot happening, guys! Everybody, wake up! The characters finally have to do something! Then, right after, while
I mean, they were like fighting racism beforehand.
Pyrrha and Penny are fighting.
I do think that this scene is really cool.
In the tournament, Emerald makes Pyrrha see way worse attacks coming.
It's just more interesting because the villains are on the move, and the villains are like hitting on a much more personal sting, which makes it the
causes
Volume
her to
3
really
a lot
push her power.
hit stronger than Volume 2.
And the tiny wires all Penny's weapons are attached to wrap around Penny. And Penny, the
Penny
character
fucking
we've known
dies.
for a whole season, plus like 5 seconds at the end of Volume 1, is torn to pieces. I mean, holy shit! She's a robot, so it's not like a...
I mean, why are you surprised? I mean, RWBY has always been based. Volume 1 was about being bullied and racism. A racism plot started. Volume 2 was also about racism, and they made Vice racist there. And Volume 3 is crazy, so...
disembowelment? But this was a character.
RWBY is fucking awesome.
She's dead. It's fucked up. Everyone goes wild, Cinder hacks the mainframe and gives a speech about humans bad, and a million billion Grimm descend on the city and school, and the last hour of Volume 3 starts with a fucking bang. Everything bad is happening to everyone, everywhere, all the time. A main character is fucking dead, in pieces.
But remember, it's only hitting this hard because Volume 1 and 2 exists. Volume 1 and 2 had that really funny, goofy dance scenes, and the funny relationship scenes, and these are like the. I really don't want to like give Volume 3 all its credit, because Volume 3 is good because Volume 1 and 2 exist. Like the tone whiplash is what makes this story so fun and interesting, because it was such a fun and interesting, and it's so it's so shocking and crazy to like. See this fun and interesting fun and goofy characters just experience this traumatic event. That's life, you know. Like I am yesterday or maybe a few days ago having fun with my friends, and maybe in the next day Mongolia is gonna get attacked and I'm going to be fighting in a war. So that's life, dude.
People are crying. This isn't your daddy's generic and then bad guys attack the city. This isn't Volume 2 shit. The city is being destroyed. Caligula gets broken out of the prison he was locked in at the end of Season 2 and starts hacking the army robots and blowing ships out of the sky. Everything's happening. Everyone's fucked.
Bring them to their knees.
The civil rights protesters still talk like they're fucking evil, but I mean, generally it's pretty good. RWBY's threatening a giant bird with one of Penny's swords. Fucking evil, but... bots and
to their knees.
I mean, you don't have to be evil to like do a grunty thing, and they are like trying to attack. They are the aggressors, so aggressors are aggressive. What a surprise!
The civil rights protesters still talk like they're fucking evil, but I mean, generally it's pretty good. RWBY's threatening a giant bird with one of Penny's swords because she's too distraught to think straight, and then it flies at her, and everyone's lockers ram into it and pin it to the ground, and everyone we've seen so far turns up to fight. Look, even Weapon Trumpet is here. This absolutely incredible shot was done by Dylan Gu. It's my favorite shot in the show, just narrowly edging out the Zwei attack. And there's great setup and payoff to it, because we've known since Volume 1 that characters can call their lockers to them to get their weapon out whenever they want it. So having them be used as weapons and just smash into this thing all at once, it's just so great. So everyone's fighting monsters, there's some great action. RWBY fights, check Malcolm McDowell's IMDb for another comical name.
Ow! The real world is cold!
And
I'll do what I do best. Survive!
And he's fucking dead! They just killed him, he's dead! I mean...
And also, like, Roman's last words were really funny. And Miles Luna probably wrote that line. So, stop shitting on Luna.
They're destroying the main setting of the story so far and killing off villains in the process. It's great for a few short episodes.
And it's only great because Volume 2 introduced a bunch of characters. And you were complaining about them. You don't get to praise Volume 3 without praising Volume 1 and 2. This isn't a freaking standalone different stories. This is like a building a castle. Volume 1 and 2 were the foundation, and Volume 3 was the pinnacle, the peak.
The show
You need the foundation for the peak.
Isn't like Avatar or anything else on its homework list. You're briefly glimpsing what it looks like when it's trying to be itself. When it's being...
It was always itself, shut up.
RWBY. You know, this is why the rest of the show is so frustrating, right? Because every now and then, something like this happens, and you want to see the show this stuff came from. RWBY opens Neo's umbrella, and the wind fucking blows her off the
I'm not gonna fucking lie. I definitely do think that, like, in terms of themes, in actual character drama, I think Volume 6, 7, and 8 might even be better than Volume 3 because, like, yeah, a lot of people are dying, a lot of shit is happening, but in the Volume 3, they're still fighting Grimm. So, and the character decisions aren't that hard to make, whereas in Volume 6, RWBY becomes an outlaw. They realize that Osman has been lying to them. Fucking Crow just beats up Oscar and just goes drunk, and then RWBY is just disappointed in Crow. So RWBY stalls a ship to go to Atlas, and she becomes a fugitive, and she fights the people of Atlas there. And in Volume 7, RWBY like starts and have a bonds with Aesop's and Ironwood, and then RWBY lies to Ironwood, and then Yang and Blake freaking lies to Ironwood behind his back and works with Robin, and then that gets found out, and then the Ironwood goes against them, and then RWBY goes against Aesop's, and then in Volume 8 they go like they just do the Volume 3 but much more depressed, and they also have to fight Ironwood and Aesop's at the same time. Like they're fighting Salem head on, not just their grim goons. They're fighting Salem head on, and they're fighting also Ironwood also. So Volume 3 best season? I really doubt it.
Ship they're flying on hundreds of feet in the air. She's dead. She's fucking dead. Until people start to get bored with the show and realize that most of the new characters are really boring. Maybe you weren't supposed.
Oh yeah. No new characters.
Start to get bored with the show and realize that most of the new characters are really
Oscar's cool, buddy. Shut up.
Boring. Maybe you weren't supposed to assume the fall was gonna kill her, but she doesn't appear for like 3 more seasons after this. So either the writers had intended to kill her and then changed her minds because they wanted the character back, or they just forgot she existed for
I mean, she literally doesn't have any reason to die because her umbrella does like soften the fall damage, and even if she like falls, she has aura.
Literally fucking years. Blake gets attacked and stabbed by Adam, and he shares his incredibly good motivation for his actions. I'm bad and I'm going to kill you. And
he's taking revenge. He thinks that Blake sided with the humans, so and betrayed the White Fang, and we did know that Blake was fighting against Torchwick, so Torchwick probably said that to Adam, so... And also, this guy is
Yang
just
tries to help.
Has much hatred. I mean, this the same way you hate RWBY. I mean, dude, you seem to be very hateful towards RWBY, and this guy seems very hateful towards Blake. I mean, Adam loves Blake, but he also really hates Blake. You seem to love RWBY so much. I mean, you know more about RWBY than I do, but you also seem to really hate RWBY. So, I mean, I'm not. It's a different version. It's a different level of hate. But just saying. Everyone has a little bit of an Adam inside themselves.
Adam cuts her arm off. This moment is still so dramatic and visually done so well. Seeing Pyrrha trying to do the right thing while living with the fact she just accidentally killed one of her friends and seeing that affect her thinking is actually incredible. And from a character perspective, it's the best stuff you'll ever see in this show. It would have been really helped if Pyrrha and Penny had actually been friends or like on screen together basically at all before the fight where Penny dies.
It's an honor.
It's probably not going to work because that will mean that Penny is going to know that Pyrrha is going to know that Penny is a robot, and this twist and this Emerald's trick worked specifically because Pyrrha knows Penny is a robot. Well, doesn't know Penny is a robot, so.
To finally meet you.
Like, at this point, it's actively offensive, like, how poorly spent the time leading up to this fight is, and just how much better it could have been if they'd, like, given these characters a relationship.
There isn't any time. Volume 1 is 1 hour long. Volume 2 is 2 hours long. Maybe 2 hours and 30 minutes. So Volume 1 and 2 is literally just, what, 4 hours long at best. You're complaining about shit, a story that is 4 hours long.
Before one of them.
What else were they supposed to do?
Killed the other? Like, wouldn't that have been meaningful?
Salutations.
Like, instead of like appreciating things for what they are, you're saying like, oh, this would have been better. This would have been better. It's just like that one like scene from Attack on Titan where Armin and Eren goes to the sea, and Armin is like, whoa, the sea is so beautiful, and then Eren is just isn't concerned about the sea. He thought he would enjoy the sea, but he didn't. He was just thinking about killing humanity outside of the sea. The people who are outside, who are on the other side of the sea, Eren wanted to kill them. That's what he was all thinking about. He didn't care about the sea. That's this guy. This guy is very active similarly to Eren. They have the similar mentality. This guy probably wouldn't, like, do the rumbling, but,
Do you remember? Pyrrha decides to let herself become the vessel for the previous maiden, but they're too late and Cinder kills the maiden. And then Pyrrha shoves Miles into his locker where he belongs. Pyrrha sends Jaune away against his will so he can survive, but not before fully confessing her feelings and kissing him, and tries to take Cinder on, but she fails.
And yeah, you were complaining about the fucking dance scene or whatever.
He can survive, but not before fully confessing her feelings and kissing him, and tries
This is so much dramatic because Volume 2 and Volume 1 exists. If they were being like cool to one another and focused all on fighting, this wouldn't happen.
But she fails and gets shot in the heart by an arrow. RWBY turns up just too late to save her and watches as Cinder dissolves Pyrrha's body into nothing. Jesus fucking Christ, they are not messing around pretending this is a show for kids anymore, are they? And then RWBY goes, no! And turns out to have a magic power because she has silver eyes, and this means she can instantly kill Grimm or something. I don't know. You learn about this power existing right now, 7 hours into the show. It's not great, but we've already talked about how weird that is. On the whole, the absolute chaos and world-changing events and the treatment of characters and emotionally interesting story moves that take place in the last 4 and a bit episodes of Volume 3 make it briefly a great show, pure and simple. And this is a weird place to end a video.
It is always a great show. This guy is just fucking more warmonger. He just can't appreciate peace. He only appreciates war, I guess. War and death.
About the problems with a show by talking about how good it was for a while.
Because, people are having a normal conversation, dancing together, having fun moments, and being bullied and talking about being bullied is, boring in his eyes. So,
and how promisingly it left.
Like, I really do think Volume 3 is great, but I think the entirety of RWBY is great. And I honestly do think that even if I'm forced to like make a ranking of my favorite volumes because of just how logic works, I definitely do take RWBY from Volume 1 to Volume 8 to be the same story because the stories just connect so well to one another.
Left its doors open. But this is really why talking about RWBY is
so like saying something like Volume 3 is great and Volume 1 and 2 is just good is meaningless and not true because Volume 3 is great because Volume 1 and 2 exist.
Brief bursts in Monty.
Like, okay, I have to put a lot of other shows under the bus just to like make RWBY look good. I have to play the villain here. I have to like do what this guy is doing. So, I do think that RWBY is better than Cowboy Bebop because Cowboy Bebop only has 4 characters. And you might think that these characters of RWBY, where RWBY just introduces a bunch of characters and just doesn't do anything with them. Cowboy Bebop does that too, because it's an episodic story. And the characters don't really learn much, either because they're stubborn, or either because, well, yeah, they are stubborn. They're really stubborn until the end. So there's that. There's also JoJo Part 3, which honestly the mid part just feels like filler. Not gonna lie, I did skip a lot of fights in Part 3, not gonna lie. And the main story of JoJo Part 3 is that they just want to beat the shit out of Dio, and that's kinda it. So yeah, it's not a very good plot to make an entire series, base an entire series upon. I mean, there were like interesting and fun moments, but RWBY managed to be both fun and have this political crazy stuff happening. And Avatar is good, but oh man, it's too long, man. There are definitely episodes that are in between them. Whereas RWBY's like, I really wouldn't have cut anything. Whereas in Avatar, there are definitely episodes you can skip. Don't lie to me. There are episodes you will skip when you're busy. Whereas if you're going to rewatch RWBY, you will watch the whole thing. I guess in the comparison to like something like Gurren Lagann, I think the problem with Gurren Lagann is that it's not that smart. It kind of like emphasizes like being brave and doing the impossible, but it kind of like throws away logic and just completely like believes in the belief mentality. It disregards logic a little too much for my taste. And also the first and the second arc are a little too similar. It doesn't just do a completely 180 like RWBY does. Like RWBY, even in volume 1 and 2, was weird. It had fucking racism in it. And like school and racism. How does this show balance how good like funny school moments and racism is beyond me. And then in volume 3 just goes batshit insane. And in volume 4 it turns into 4 different stories following the different main characters. Volume 5 is just like that, continues that. They also solve the racism problem and all the stories converge into one another. So that's really cool. Volume 6 is like Harry Potter 7, where the characters go on a journey and they try to go on a very depressing journey. So it's a road type of journey, which is, again, completely different. And Volume 7 is like, hey, they hang out in Atlas. And then at the finale, they try to kill all their friends in Atlas. And fight stuff. And Volume 8 is just war. So, yeah, RWBY is pretty cool. I mean, this guy is just being an asshole and being a hypocrite. I mean, again, this guy's opinion is opinion. My opinion is opinion too. You have to like remember that because there are like many logical arguments you can make to make Cowboy Bebop, JoJo, or Gurren Lagann look better than RWBY. Like if I want to make an argument as to why Cowboy Bebop is better than RWBY, I'll probably do a better job than this guy. I can make a video. I just don't want to because RWBY is so underrated and underappreciated and overhated. I don't think I ever like watched a series that has been this overhated. Like RWBY is such in a sad state of affairs where the fans don't appreciate it, but somehow it still makes money enough to make the creators still make enough money to do a sequel to it. Rooster Teeth just cares, I guess.
Storylines or character moments that get forgotten or dropped, and in the way they really satisfyingly did things with Pyrrha's character. But now that character is gone, so the show's back to having dozens of characters with barely one interesting personality between them.
Oh my fucking god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah, let's not talk about, Yang's depression. That was, unimpressive, shit, sad. Yang doesn't have any characteristics, dude. She doesn't feel depression. She's always happy and go-lucky. And Weiss doesn't like have her own will. Weiss is just that ice queen who doesn't like want respect from his parents and who wasn't like had a bad past. Oh no, let's just not talk about that. Let's also not talk about John because Miles Luna inserted himself into him, and that just makes him automatically bad.
The good parts of the show really can be great, and because of this, all the bad parts are worse than bad. They're also a shame.
Yeah, that's also why like there's so much pressure in working on RWBY. Like if I was hired by Rooster Teeth to work on the story of RWBY, it will be pressure. It will be very pressuring because the fans just completely bitch about everything. But at the same time, I will absolutely do it. Rooster Teeth, if you want me to become your writer, please, I love RWBY so much. Please just accept me as a writer, dude. I mean, I want to be a second writer. Please let me do it. I'm totally on board. Rooster Teeth, come on, buddies.
It won't matter how bad it started out, because where it went will be great. There's a certain manic energy, a compelling power in these early seasons of RWBY. Even if you're having a bad time, you feel pulled along, like you just...
I still think the manic energy still exists. Like, did you watch the recent volumes? Like, you think Team RWBY did anything controversial in volume 1, 2, 3? No, they didn't. They didn't do anything controversial. But in volume 6 they did. RWBY just fought against the military, against the people of Atlas. And then RWBY just goes to fight against Aesop's. And against Ironwood. And they also had an argument against Ospen. So
Let's see how it ends up. This tone will change. As the show continues to be written and paced in frustrating ways, and cheat off the answers on its anime homework, and its most interesting, unique aspects are continuously downplayed or ignored, it becomes more and more clear that you'll never see the show become itself. I didn't watch Monty Ohm's RWBY to see Miles Luna's avatar, but that's what people are getting. If the creator...
Oh, yeah. Miles Luna is the villain here. Like, what is Miles Luna supposed to do? Not write RWBY info? Like, he knew, like, he was one of the few people who knew the most about the story, huh? So what was he supposed to do? He should listen to your criticism and gave up and, like, cry in a corner? Is that what you're trying to say?
Of RWBY had started...
Because he is the fucking writer. Of course it's going to be his ideas, mostly. I mean, of course other writers and directors are inputting too, but, you know, the dialogue, a huge portion of the story is directly responsible by Miles Luna's and Carrie's works.
Started learning from their mistakes and taken to heart the good faith criticisms the people who wanted to love their show were making. RWBY could have really been something. But
could have been. This is implying that volume 6, 7, and 8 are bad, which I heavily disagree with.
People who wanted
Miles is
to
like
love
a
their
genius,
show
just
were
like
making.
Monty, just because, you know, you don't just get to see an awesome action scene. Like, Monty is very obvious. You see his action scene, you know why he's a fucking mastermind. But like, Miles Luna, you gotta appreciate the man. The more you, like, be open-minded to his stories. You know, be more meek, be more accepting, be less egotistical, less criticizing. Because in order to learn from a story, you need to be a student. An arrogant student never learns anything. I am a student. I will forever be a student. Like, I do think that sometimes that school was restricting, but at the same time, I never stopped being a good student because learning is important, even if you're forced to learn sometimes.
RWBY could have really been something. The real shame of RWBY is everyone whose work goes unsung because it's in a show that sucks. People like Shane Neville, who left the show and released a massive open letter detailing his feelings about the company's treatment of the show after Monty's...
Shane Neville never, like, complained about Miles. There was, like, something going on about it in the company. But, like, throughout all that, RWBY still managed to be good because the people who were on the creative team were also good. It's just that the marketing, the management was being a bit Machiavellian, I guess. But you know, at the same time, businessmen need to be like that. Like, what are they supposed to do?
Passing, or Harley.
Like, people do want to be the director. It's such an important role. Shane was one of those candidates, so they probably, you know, forced Shane out of the team because of that. Yeah, it's tragic. Shane probably would have like made RWBY even better. Maybe like fix certain fights in Volume 5 and 4. But I think, see, this is the thing. Like, a lot of time did pass after like Shane's letter, so it's very possible that, especially after Volume 4 and 5, the creative team just got much better people on board, and that was making a success, maybe. I don't know.
Who contributes a lot to making some of the best parts of the show, or the many other animators and artists who are still to this day putting time.
And even if, you know, work conditions are shit, you know, good artists are still good artists. Like, even if you like put Monty in a bad situation, he's still going to create good art because, you know, he's a legend.
It's important to talk about this show and where it went wrong, because while this is the first attempt to make an
like, this is the freaking problem with a lot of RWBY criticism. I'm not this guy. I don't know what the hell is going on inside this guy's head. But from what I have like observed, a lot of the criticisms of RWBY is solely because people have a sort of a hatred towards Rooster Teeth because of Shane's letter, and they're like directing that criticism towards the producers, and I don't know why this guy is hating on Miles. This guy literally said that Volume 3 had an amazing story, but and then fucking shitting on Miles for some reason. And a lot of people do just seems to like read Shane's letter and just have a great hatred towards Rooster Teeth and the people who are working on Rooster Teeth, which I think is kind of wrong and kind of hilarious, because at the end of the day, this is still Monty's vision. Most of the thing, Monty did say, he had to have said the story plannings and structures. Like, this guy did like whine about the tournament arc, but you know, it's very probable. In fact, I think Shane actually mentions that the tournament arc was planned. The tournament arc was Monty's plan, and even some of the maiden stuff and the something that happens in the later on the story. And remember, Salem was probably teased. Like I said, Salem was teased in the intro, so it's very much possible that Monty knew what the hell is up with Salem too. Maybe he didn't know about Ironwood's betrayal or something like that. Monty, a lot of ideas of Monty is still prevalent in like Volume 8. And Miles and Luna and Carrie still know and still discuss these ideas with Monty. They had to have been. He has discussed those ideas with Shane, and there's no way he didn't discuss those ideas with Miles and Carrie. So you have to remember that. You have to remember that Shane isn't the only person who knew Monty's mission, and him being outed from the production doesn't like make the production of Rooster Teeth like completely alien to Monty's vision. That's not true. And even if they're like alien, who cares? They're still artists doing great art. They're not, I don't know, killing people out there like the White Fang or Salem. They're just good people making art that they like, that most people are watching for free, like me. I pirated RWBY. I'm a fan of RWBY. I love RWBY, but I still pirated it because I'm a poor Asian who can't afford to buy anime. Please give me my money on Patreon. I'm going to link my Patreon soon, so please put money in my Patreon so I can buy more RWBY merchandise, I guess.
animated web series of basically anything like this scale. It won't necessarily be the last, and that means we have to learn all the lessons we can from its production problems and failures, or we'll see them get repeated again. I want there to be
you can learn, but I don't know. There's a lot of assuming here, and you clearly didn't learn anything from the John arc because you think it's stupid. You didn't learn anything from Weiss being criticized by Professor Port because you just assumed it was dumb. You didn't learn anything from the White Fang arc because you think it's dumb. I don't think there's a logical hole in in those arcs. So if you're still like listening to this, thank you very much. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you like stayed until this moment, you are a pretty chat guy.